Welcome back to AS Stories. Sometimes, the people we least expect become the architects of our rescue. Sometimes, family isn't the one who shares your blood, but the one who shows up when you have nothing left. Today's story is about a mother named Sarah, her 6-year-old daughter Lia, and the day a black sedan pulled into a shelter parking lot, bringing with it a truth that would change everything. The shelter smelled like industrial cleaner and cheap cafeteria food. It was a scent that clung to your clothes, your hair, your skin. A constant reminder of where you were. Lia had been sleeping on a cot next to mine for 11 days. She was 6 years old, and she hadn't complained once. Not about the shared bathrooms with the flickering lights. Not about the noise at night, the crying, the arguing, the sirens outside. Not about the fact that we'd gone from having a home to having a numbered bed in a room with 14 other women. She just held my hand and trusted me. And that trust was the only thing that kept me moving when I wanted to fall apart and never get back up. I won't pretend I didn't cry at night. I did. Quietly after Lia fell asleep. I would turn toward the cold, painted cinder block wall and cry until my throat burned and there was nothing left. Then I would wipe my face, take a deep breath and make a plan for the next day. Because that's what you do when your 6-year-old is watching you. You keep moving. We had been in the shelter for 11 days when the black sedan arrived. It was a gray, cold Tuesday afternoon. Lia and I were sitting on a worn wooden bench near the entrance. She was drawing in a notebook I'd found at the donation table, her tongue poking out in concentration. I was filling out a job application on my phone, the glare of the screen hurting my eyes in the dim light. I was trying very, very hard not to think about how we'd gotten here. Then I heard it. The sound of a car that doesn't belong in a shelter parking lot. A smooth, purring engine. A slow, deliberate movement. I looked up. A black sedan. Expensive. Immaculate. It pulled into the lot and stopped. For a moment, nothing happened. The engine died. Then the back door opened. A woman stepped out. She was in her 70s, elegant and composed. Her gray hair was pinned back perfectly. She wore a wool coat that probably cost more than a month of my old rent. She stood next to the car and looked around the parking lot with sharp, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. And then those eyes landed on me. My grandmother, Evelyn Hart. She hadn't aged the way most people do. She'd just become more concentrated, more precise, more herself. We hadn't spoken in almost 2 years. Our falling out had been quiet and mutual and painful in the way only family rifts can be. But she was here, standing in a shelter parking lot, looking at me like she was trying to decide whether to be relieved or furious. She settled on both. "Sarah," she said, walking toward us. Her voice was exactly as I remembered, crisp and unwavering. "What on earth are you doing here?" Lia looked up from her notebook, her small face breaking into a hesitant smile. "Grandma Evelyn," she said. "Because children remember faces. Even when adults pretend people don't exist." My grandmother's expression softened for a split second when she saw Lia, then hardened again as her gaze swept back to me. "Sarah, answer me. What are you doing at a shelter?" "We're staying here temporarily," I said carefully, my voice quieter than I intended. "While I get back on my feet." My grandmother looked around the parking lot again. At the building. At Lia's cot, visible through the grimy window. Her jaw tightened. "Get in the car," she said. "Grandma, I can't just." "Both of you. Now." There was a tone in her voice I remembered from my own childhood. The one that meant she wasn't asking twice. It was the tone of someone who was used to being obeyed. I looked at Lia. She was already standing, her notebook clutched to her chest, ready to go. Trusting. Always trusting. We got in the car. For the first few minutes, no one spoke. Lia sat between us in the back seat, looking back and forth like she was watching a tennis match. My grandmother stared out the window at the gray cityscape. I stared at my own hands, chapped from the shelter's harsh soap. Then my grandmother turned to me. "When did this start?" "About 5 weeks ago," I said. "We lost our apartment. I couldn't make the payments. I tried to find something else, but there's nothing in our price range right now." My grandmother's brow furrowed. "What about the Hawthorne Street property?" I froze. "What?" "The Hawthorne Street house," she repeated slowly, as if I were being dense. The one I put in a trust for you 3 years ago. Why aren't you living there? The words didn't make sense. They were sounds, syllables that refused to form a coherent thought. I stared at her. I don't know what you're talking about. My grandmother looked at me for a long, searching moment. I transferred a house on Hawthorne Street into a family trust 3 years ago, she said, her voice measured. Specifically so you, and any children you had, would always have a place to live. Your parents were named as trustees. My hands went cold. The blood drained from my face. My parents. They were supposed to manage the property and make sure you had access to it. My grandmother's eyes narrowed into slits. Are you telling me you didn't know about it? I had no idea this property even existed, I whispered. My grandmother was quiet for a long time. Very still. That kind of stillness I recognized. It meant something was building underneath. A storm. I see, she said finally. Her voice was ice. She picked up her phone and made a call, her words too quiet for me to hear. I sat there in the back seat of that luxurious sedan, trying to process what I'd just learned. My parents knew about a house. A house in a trust. A house meant for me and Lia. And we were sleeping in a shelter. My grandmother hung up. I'm going to need you to tell me everything that happened in the past 2 months, she said. Everything. So, I told her. I told her about losing my job, about the fruitless search for new work, about burning through my meager savings. I told her about the apartment, the landlord, the eviction notice taped to our door. I told her about bringing Lia to the shelter because I had nowhere else to go. My grandmother listened without interrupting, her face a mask of stone. When I was done, she looked at Lia. How are you doing, sweetheart? She asked, her voice softening. Lia shrugged, a 6-year-old's attempt at nonchalance. It's okay. The food at the shelter is pretty good. They have corn sometimes. My grandmother's face did something complicated. A flicker of pain, quickly suppressed. I'm glad to hear that, she said. Then she looked back at me. I'm going to make some calls. The next morning, my grandmother picked us up from the shelter at 9 o'clock sharp. We drove straight to her lawyer's office. A man named Mr. Collins met us there. He looked like he'd been practicing law since before I was born, with reading glasses on a gold chain and a desk covered in perfectly organized folders. He looked at me over his glasses. You're Sarah Hart? Yes. And you were completely unaware of the Hawthorne Street Trust property? Completely, I said. He nodded, making a note. Your grandmother established that trust 3 years ago. The property has been in it ever since. Your parents were named as co-trustees, with the specific responsibility of ensuring you had access to the home. Instead, my grandmother said from beside me, her voice sharp as a blade, I'd like to know what they've been doing with it. Mr. Collins cleared his throat. I took the liberty of making some inquiries this morning. He slid a thin folder across the polished desk. I opened it. Inside was a rental agreement for the Hawthorne Street property, signed by my parents. Dated 2 years ago. My stomach dropped through the floor. They rented it out, Mr. Collins confirmed. For $2,000 a month, for the past 24 months. I did the math in my head. It was automatic. $48,000. My parents had collected $48,000 in rent on a house that was supposed to be mine. While Lia and I slept in a shelter. My hands began to shake. Can they do that? As trustees, they had management authority, Mr. Collins explained gently. But that authority was supposed to be exercised for your benefit, not theirs. What they've done is a breach of fiduciary duty. Potentially fraud. My grandmother's voice was very quiet when she spoke. I want to see them. Today. Mr. Collins nodded. I've already arranged it. My parents arrived at the lawyer's office at 2 o'clock that afternoon. My father in a press shirt, my mother in a smart blazer. They stopped dead in the doorway when they saw me and my grandmother sitting there. My father's expression shifted from confident to carefully neutral. My mother's practiced smile flickered and died. Evelyn, my father said. We didn't know you'd be here. Sit down, Robert, my grandmother said. It wasn't an invitation. They sat. Mr. Collins placed the rental agreement on the table between us. My father looked at it and said nothing. Would you like to explain this? My grandmother asked. My mother spoke first, her voice too high. We were managing the property. That's what trustees do. You are collecting $2,000 a month, my grandmother said, each word precise and cold. On a property that exists specifically to house Sarah and her daughter, who have been living in a shelter for 11 days. Silence. My father looked at his hands. My mother stared at the wall. We were going to tell her, my mother said finally, the lie hanging in the air. We were just waiting for the right time. The right time, my grandmother repeated, her voice like ice, was before she went to a shelter. We needed the money, my father burst out. Things have been difficult. Things have been difficult for Sarah, too, my grandmother shot back. She's been sleeping on a cot with a 6-year-old while you've been collecting rent on her house. My mother tried a different angle. The property needed management. We were providing a service. You were providing a service to yourselves, Mr. Collins interjected calmly. To the tune of $48,000 over 2 years. My father finally looked at me. His eyes were pleading. Sarah, we were going to make it right. When? I asked. My voice came out steadier than I felt, though my heart was pounding. When exactly were you going to make it right? Before or after Lia asked me why we didn't have our own bathroom? My mother flinched as if I'd slapped her. My grandmother stood up, the motion final and absolute. Robert, Linda, here is what is going to happen. You are going to vacate the property immediately. The current tenants will be given proper notice. Sarah and Lia will move in within the week. You will repay every single dollar you collected in rent. And you will be removed as trustees. My father's jaw tightened. You can't just. I absolutely can, my grandmother said. And I will. You had one responsibility. Keep my granddaughter and her child safe. You failed. And you profited from that failure. My mother started crying. We made a mistake. Yes, my grandmother said simply. You did. She picked up her bag. Mr. Collins will handle the paperwork. I expect your full cooperation. She looked at them one final time, her gaze devoid of warmth. I am deeply ashamed of both of you. Then she walked out. I followed her. In the hallway, my grandmother stopped and took a deep, unsteady breath. She looked tired in a way I hadn't seen before. The anger had drained away, leaving only a profound weariness. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I should have checked in sooner. I should have made sure. You didn't know, I said. Neither did I. She looked at me, her eyes softening. Where is Lia now? With a volunteer at the shelter, I said. She's watching a movie. My grandmother nodded. Go get her. You're both staying with me until the house is ready. Grandma, we can't. You can, she said, her voice firm but gentle. And you will. We stayed with my grandmother for 9 days. Lia slept in a real bed for the first time in almost 2 weeks. She took long, hot baths instead of hurried shelter showers. She ate breakfast at a dining table with cloth napkins. She thought it was the greatest adventure of her life. On the 10th day, we moved into the Hawthorne Street house. It was a 3-bedroom. A small, fenced yard. A kitchen with actual counter space. Lia ran through every room, her laughter echoing off the walls, and declared the smallest bedroom her own because it had a window seat. She immediately began planning how to decorate it. I stood in the living room and cried. Not the quiet, suppressed shelter tears. The real kind. The kind that come from a relief so deep it feels like something breaking open inside your chest. My parents paid the money back. Quietly. In full. No apologies were given. No explanations offered beyond what had already been said. I didn't ask for more. I wasn't interested in performances of regret. I was interested in Lia having a home. My grandmother called every Sunday after that. Not long calls. Just checking in. Practical. Efficient. Love expressed in consistency rather than words. 1 month after we moved in, Lia came to me with a drawing. A house with a yard. 3 stick figures in front of it. Me, her, and a small cat she'd been asking for since the day we arrived. At the bottom, in her uneven 6-year-old handwriting, she'd written 2 words. Our home. I put it on the refrigerator. It's still there. So, tell me, did my grandmother go too far? Or did she do exactly what needed to be done? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to AS Stories for more tales of hope, family, and second chances. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a story. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care of the ones who matter.